If you like this video, why not subscribe? Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Frugal Filmmaker Q&A. It's Monday morning and it's early, and I'm going to try and answer some of your questions that you've sent me. Now, if you'd like to have a question read on this show and have me attempt to answer it, please send me an email to frugalfilmmaker@gmail.com or comment below, and I will try and answer all of your questions personally or through email or on this show if I feel like I can. My last episode was a review of a LCD battery charger for those Sony NPF batteries that I've been using to power everything, and they're a real common battery. So if you're interested or need a charger like that, please check out that review. I thought it was a pretty good deal for $25. It gives you a nice big display, tells you how much power you have in your battery, even when it's not plugged in. So that's a worthwhile review if you use those batteries. Now, usually I would share with you what I got in the mail this week, and I'm waiting for some cool things to come in the mail, but nothing came, so I can't really share that with you. So I guess we will just jump right in to the questions. The first one comes from Avery Hoff. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. And he says, "Hello Scott, my name is Avery, and I was wondering if you would ever make a what's in my camera bag video. I would love to see it, and I think a bunch of other people would too. And also, what camera do you use? Hope you have a wonderful day. Sincerely, Avery." Thanks, Avery. And instead of kind of making I don't know if I could make just a video about just that, because all the camera stuff I've used has kind of been spread across all my videos. So I thought right now maybe I could share a little bit about the kind of cameras that I use here for the different things I do on the show. I really use just a couple cameras, but there's various setups for those cameras. For example, the camera that I'm using right now to shoot this video is a Canon HFS 100. It's an HD camcorder that has some pro features. I've been using it for years for basically all my videos I've shot on this channel. I used to use the Sanyo CG10 when I would shoot the videos in my car, but since I moved away from shooting in my car, I'm now using a better camera for this show. But you've probably seen me use the camcorder before me talk about it, but hopefully I can drop a couple pictures here so you can see what it looks like. But the camcorder is kind of the workhorse for all the stuff on my channel, as far as all the videos, the instructional videos I shoot on the channel, or any event type shooting. I'll use the camcorder because, unlike a lot of DSLR, a lot of interchangeable lens cameras, with the exception of the Panasonic GH series, I believe, a lot of those cameras overheat, including mine, which is this one, the Sony NEX5N. And since it overheats, I tend not to shoot long events with it, so I'll use the camcorder, which is way more reliable for long-term shooting. And so I've shot weddings, or I've shot my daughter's ballet stuff with it for long performances, that kind of thing, and it works pretty good. So that's what I use. What I'm using now, that's the video you're watching right now, comes from that camera. Next up, we've got what I call my narrative camera, my narrative A camera, which is this. This is the Sony NEX5N. This is actually, I've got it, the setup here is for stills. I've got it in the Frugal Fattener, which is just a big grip that allows this little tiny camera to fit better into my hand. I talked about this a while ago, but you can check the link below or the annotation on the screen that goes into detail more about this. How it's just kind of a flash bracket with a big foam grip that allows the camera to just be gripped more easily by my large hands. And if you've got big hands and a little camera, this can come in pretty handy. But this is what I mostly use when I shoot stills. Photography is more of a hobby right now. I want to learn more about it because it definitely helps me with cinematography. So with that being said, I'm also going to use this camera as my narrative camera, or when I'm shooting short films, it'll go into the Frugal Cage, which you've probably heard me talk about ad nauseum. Made a whole bunch of videos about that. And this small camera goes into the cage, and there's a monitor attached and extra batteries, hence the charger, and all that stuff. So, you talked about camera bag, and you've probably seen me, maybe you've not seen the video, the stealth camera bag right here. This is basically a lunch bag or a small cooler that I use to carry my camera stuff around in, because this is much cheaper than an actual camera bag, and it's sort of disguised, so people don't know it's a camera bag until they see me pull a camera out of it. But I've kind of, depending on what setup I'm using, if I'm shooting stills, for example, I'll mix and match items that go into that bag. So that'll kind of change. My 7-inch monitor goes into there as well, along with batteries and blah, blah, blah. But here's something I'll take whenever I'm shooting a narrative. I've got all my prime lenses in here. This bag has all my Minolta lenses, and you can kind of see them right there, defined right now by these silicone lens bands. I made an episode about that as well, which you can check the link below. And so if I'm shooting and I need a prime lens, I can just call for the color. I know what the color is based on these bands, and all of them, all my primes with the exception of my 20mm has these bands on them because they also work with my follow focus, because the bands will not only let me know what lens they are, but they'll also act as a buffer between the follow focus gear and the lens themselves, because the lenses are smaller lenses, and so those bands help the gear to grip the lens better. So that's why they're on there. But this bag really doesn't change much. Here I've got some filters over here, and then right here is the ND throttle from PhotoDiox, which I haven't yet reviewed because I keep running out of sunlight. Every time I go to review it or go to shoot some test footage, it's overcast and I want bright sunlight for that episode. So this is my lens bag right here. So you've seen my camera bag, my lens bag, and the various cameras that I use, mostly my camcorder, and then the NEX5N here, which I use for a variety of stuff. Interchangeable lenses can go on this camera, and that's why I like it. Next up, we have a letter from email from Gary Scott, who says, like you, I have an NEX5N. Watching your videos, you appear to use an aftermarket shotgun microphone. Have you ever tried the Sony microphone for the 5N? Being a complete newbie, I'd really like to avoid as much post-processing as possible. And yes, it is true when I'm shooting narratives or pretty much anything. This show, for example, I'm using this lav right here. I'm always using double system sound, which is when you record sound separate from picture and then you sync them up later in post. And I can understand the desire not to have to do that, because it is a huge time-saving step if you can marry the two while you're shooting instead of having to sync them up later. However, the problem is with most of these cameras, whether it's the 5N or this camcorder or whatever, you're going to have pretty cheap preamps inside the camera unless you've got some kind of external device that's boosting your signal before it goes into that cheap preamp. You're going to have crummy sound no matter how good your microphone is, or at least crummier sound than if you used a separate audio recorder. I use the Zoom H1, which I'm wearing right now on my belt, so I can record this sound. Even for something like this, which you would think, well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, this is just sort of a podcast off of a show. You know, do you really need that great of a sound? But the fact is that when I'm putting the show together in post, and in fact, if you look at some of my older episodes when I was running audio directly into the camera, those preamps are creating a nasty, nasty hiss that you definitely notice. So I would definitely sway you from using on-camera microphones for whatever show you're doing. And in fact, that attachment that you can get, I think, for $80, which goes into the 5N right here. And so here I've got the viewfinder attachment right here, but if you remove this, you can put those kind of supposedly is supposed to be better onboard mics, but from what I've read, they're not that much better. They don't make hardly any difference. And since there's no mic input on that camera, unless you hack one into that microphone attachment, which I don't recommend either because you have no way of controlling audio levels, it's just more of a headache and you're not going to get better sound. Just go with double system. It is kind of a headache, I know, but it's a worthwhile headache because the quality improvement you will get is that just that much better. I mean, those devices, those recording devices like the Zoom H1, Tascam DR05 are really good entry-level recorders that'll take unbalanced mics like this. They use the 1/8" plugs that go into those recorders opposed to XLRs, because once you jump up to XLRs, you're going to jump up $100 to get that higher quality sound. But you can still get pretty good sound going into a separate recorder that's made to record dialogue or made to be an audio recorder. I'm not talking about audio recorders that are made to record like lectures and that kind of a thing, but audio recorders that are dedicated to record things like dialogue, and you know they are because they've got, you can adjust the levels and you can see the levels on the recorder and you can adjust them, and that's a great sign that you're dealing with something that's been specifically made to record sound. And even though, like my camcorder here has audio meters, which is great, and a mic input, it just cannot compare. The quality of sound cannot compare to something like the Zoom H1, which is $100 and it is extra money you have to spend, but it's worth it if you care about sound, and you should care about sound because it's half the experience of any audio-visual experience, right? It's audio and visuals. So it's a film or instructional video like this or whatever, I highly recommend that you invest or borrow or get a dedicated audio recorder and a person, if you can, to run that recorder on set, because it means a lot, and it's so important to get clean sound when you're on set or when you're doing something like this, because if it's bad sound, you have to fix it later. So it's just really important. I guess this is kind of a big bloated answer to your question, but there it is. So go with double system. And don't go with those mics on the 5N because they're not going to be any better than the onboard mics you already have. So don't waste your money. Okay, finally, our last question comes from Taylor Mosby, who commented on the first Q&A video, well, actually the second Q&A video since we brought him back. The video was, why do I make these videos? That's the Q&A video. And he asked about the jump cutting. He commented in the comments of that video, but for some reason YouTube wouldn't let me reply to it, so I thought I would reply here, because if any of you recall in the previous season of the Q&A videos, I specifically said that I hated that style of kind of video blogging where they would use jump cuts. And I'm sure that comes from kind of an old school mentality I had, and plus in that show I was doing no editing, so it was just what was being recorded on camera, and then I would dump it right to the internet. It wouldn't even go into my computer, it would go right from the card to YouTube after doing a little trimming. But by using jump cuts, it's just a way to tighten things up, and it's not necessarily used as a gimmick. I hope not anyway, but I use it just because it was just a better way of making the show as short as possible, just getting you the most information that you hopefully would want, and kind of trimming out all the crap that didn't mean anything, or that was just me kind of rambling on. And I will do that, and that's why but I feel like I can do that, especially if you're going to be using jump cuts. So, but considering the type of show that it is, mainly basically informational, answering questions, that kind of a thing, and it's a quickie, right? I'm banging this out. Right now it's Sunday night after midnight, so it is Monday morning, but I just need to get it done as quick as possible because I don't have as much time to spend on it compared to some of the other shows that I would do. So that's why I'm doing them, Taylor. But I appreciate your question. Taylor, by the way, if you don't know, was the person who designed the first Frugal Filmmaker t-shirt, and he also was the one who created the opening animation for the Frugal Filmmaker film. If you watch a movie and it's got that animation with the movie projector and the quarter dropping into it, that's Taylor. So I thank him for that. Thank him for his question. And I thank you guys for watching. If you have a question you'd like me to answer on this show, if you feel like I could possibly answer it, send me an email at thefrugalfilmmaker@gmail.com or comment below and I'll try and answer it there. But that's where you can find me. Don't forget to check out the Frugal Filmmaker Facebook group, which is also full of people willing to contribute help and answers to questions, as well as critiques to videos and deals across the internet on filmmaking stuff. So check that out. I'm also on Twitter at Frugal Filmmaker. And that's it. So this week, hopefully, as I've been kind of teasing, the review of the Photodiox ND throttle, which is a variable ND that fits behind the lens and goes in between the lens and the camera. Hopefully I'll be able to find some bright sunlight so I can get that review done. I know several of you have been waiting for it, so I apologize for the delay of that. Check out last week's video, which was a review of the LCD battery charger. So at any rate, thanks for watching. I'll see you next Monday with another episode of the Frugal Filmmaker Q&A.